The clock's hand spun wildly, a blur of gold against ancient wood, then stopped, pointing directly at her. My heart lurched, not with joy, but with a sickening dread that clawed at my chest. Riley Parker, my rival, my tormentor, stood there, her blue eyes narrowing as if she'd just been slapped by fate itself. I'd always known Riley was trouble. Growing up in the sleepy town of Havenwood, Virginia, we'd been at odds since middle school. She was the golden girl, cheerleader, prom queen, the one everyone adored, while I, Alex Carter, was the scrappy outsider, the girl with paint-splattered jeans and a chip on her shoulder. Our rivalry wasn't just personal. It was legendary. From debate club showdowns to competing for the same art scholarship, we'd spent years sharpening our edges against each other. But this was something else entirely. The antique shop smelled of dust and old secrets, its shelves crammed with forgotten treasures. I'd come here on a whim, dragged by my best friend Mia to check out a magical clock she'd heard about. "It reveals your soulmate," Mia had said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I'd laughed it off. Soulmates were for fairy tales, not for girls like me who'd learned to guard their hearts. But when Mia dared me to touch the clock, its carved face pulsing with a strange, warm light, I couldn't resist. I never backed down from a challenge. The moment my fingers brushed the clock's surface, a jolt shot through me, like electricity mixed with memory. The air thickened and the room seemed to hum. Then the hand spun, faster than it should have, before landing on Riley, who just walked in with her usual swagger. She froze, her gaze darting from the clock to me, her lips parting in shock. "What the hell is this, Carter?" she snapped, her voice low but sharp enough to cut. She stepped closer, her blonde hair catching the dim light, making her look like some avenging angel. "You messing with me?" "I didn't do anything," I shot back, my pulse racing. "You think I'd rig a creepy old clock to point at you?" Mia, standing by the counter, stifled a laugh. "Oh, this is too good. The universe has a sense of humor." "Shut up, Mia," I muttered, my eyes still locked on Riley. She was closer now, close enough for me to catch the faint scent of her lavender perfume. It was infuriating how even her scent annoyed me, and yet, something about it twisted in my gut, unfamiliar and unsettling. The shopkeeper, an old woman with eyes like polished obsidian, emerged from the shadows. "The clock doesn't lie," she said, her voice gravelly but firm. "It sees what you cannot. It shows the one your soul is bound to, whether you accept it or not." Riley scoffed, crossing her arms. "This is ridiculous. I'm not bound to her." She jerked her chin at me, her expression a mix of disdain and something else, something that flickered too fast for me to name. I wanted to agree, to laugh it off and walk away, but the clock's glow hadn't faded. It pulsed faintly as if mocking us. My hand still tingled where I'd touched it, and a part of me, a part one hated, wondered if there was truth in the old woman's words. Soulmates? With Riley Parker? The idea was absurd. And yet, the way her eyes held mine, fierce and searching, made my chest tighten in ways I didn't understand. "Let's get out of here," I said, turning to Mia. But Riley grabbed my wrist, her grip firm but not painful. "Not so fast," she said, her voice softer now, almost dangerous. "If this thing's real, we need to know what it means. I'm not letting some dusty relic dictate my life." I yanked my hand free, ignoring the warmth where her fingers had been. "Fine. But don't expect me to play along with this nonsense." The shopkeeper smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. "You'll see," she said. "The clock always finds a way." That night I couldn't sleep. Riley's face haunted me, her sharp jawline, her defiant stare, the way her lips curled when she was angry. I tossed in bed, the memory of the clock's glow burning behind my eyes. Why her? Of all people, why Riley Parker? I'd spent years hating her, resenting her effortless charm, her ability to make me feel small. But now doubt crept in like a thief, stealing my certainty. What if the clock was right? What if fate had a plan I couldn't escape? The next morning I found a note slipped under my apartment door. In Riley's neat, slanted handwriting it read, "Meet me at the shop. 7 p.m. We're figuring this out." My heart skipped, not out of excitement but something closer to fear. I crumpled the note, but I already knew I'd go. I had to know what the clock wanted and why it had chosen us. At 7 p.m. the antique shop was quieter, the air heavier. Riley was already there, leaning against a shelf, her arms crossed like she was bracing for a fight. The clock sat between us, its face glowing faintly, as if it had been waiting. "Ready to admit this is a scam?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer to the clock, her fingers hovering over its surface. "I touched it after you left," she said, her voice low. "And it pointed to you again." My breath caught. "What?" "You heard me." She turned to face me, her eyes blazing. "This thing thinks we're connected. And I want to know why." The shopkeeper appeared again, her presence almost ghostly. "The clock reveals truth," she said. "But truth is only the beginning. You must choose what to do with it." I wanted to run, to pretend this wasn't happening. But Riley's gaze held me in place, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that wasn't anger or rivalry. It was fear, raw, unguarded, and so human it shook me. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Riley's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "We find out what the hell this clock knows about us." The clock's glow seemed to pulse in time with my heartbeat as Riley and I stood there, caught in a moment that felt too big for the cramped antique shop. I wanted to dismiss it all, call it a trick, a prank, anything but real. But the weight in Riley's eyes, the way she chewed her lip, told me she was as rattled as I was. "Let's break this thing and be done with it," I said, half joking, my voice rough with unease. Riley's gaze flicked to the clock, then back to me. Tempting. But what if it's not wrong? Her words hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. She stepped closer, her boots scuffing the worn floorboards. "You ever think there's more to this us than just hating each other?" Her question hit like a punch. I opened my mouth to snap back, to say something sharp and safe, but nothing came. Instead, memories flooded in. Riley stealing my debate points in high school, her smug grin when she won. The time she'd caught me crying in the art room and instead of mocking me, just left without a word. The way her laugh carried across the football field, bright and untouchable. I'd always told myself I hated her. But hate didn't explain the way my pulse jumped when she was near. "Stop it," I said, shaking my head. "This is crazy. We're not soulmates. We can't even stand each other." She raised an eyebrow, a spark of her old defiance returning. "Can't we? Or is that just what we've been telling ourselves?" The shopkeeper, who'd been silently polishing a brass candlestick, cleared her throat. "The clock doesn't choose lightly," she said. "It sees past your walls, past your pride. It sees your hearts." I wanted to argue, to tell her she sounded like a fortune teller at a county fair. But Riley was already reaching for the clock again, her fingers trembling slightly. "If this thing's so smart, let's test it," she said. "Ask it something else. Something real." "Like what?" I asked, my throat dry. She hesitated, then looked at me, her eyes softer than I'd ever seen. "Ask it why we've been fighting all these years." My stomach twisted. I didn't want to touch the clock again. Didn't want to feel that jolt, that pull towards something I wasn't ready to face. But Riley's challenge hung between us, and I'd never been one to back down. I stepped forward, my hand hovering over the clock's face. The wood felt warm, almost alive under my fingertips. "Fine," I said. "Why do we hate each other?" The clock hummed, a low resonant sound that vibrated through the floor. The hand spun again, slower this time, before stopping on a symbol I hadn't noticed before. A small carved heart, etched with 2 interlocking lines. The shopkeeper's eyes gleamed. "Fear," she said simply. "You've both been afraid." "Afraid?" Riley's voice was sharp, but there was a crack in it. "Of what?" "Her." She gestured at me, but her hand lingered in the air, uncertain. "Of yourselves," the shopkeeper said. "Of what you might feel if you stopped fighting." I laughed, but it came out brittle. "That's not an answer. That's just cryptic nonsense." "Then ask it something else," Riley said, her voice daring me. "Something you're too scared to say out loud." My heart pounded. There was a question burning in me, one I'd never dared to voice, not even to myself. I took a breath, my fingers brushing the clock again. What am I hiding? I whispered. The hand spun, then stopped on another symbol, a mirror. The shopkeeper's voice was soft but piercing. You hide your truth, Alex Carter. The part of you that loves what you've been taught to fear. My chest tightened and I stepped back, my hand dropping like the clock had burned me. Riley was staring at me, her expression unreadable. What does that mean? She asked, but her voice was gentle, almost careful. I don't know. I lied, my face hot. But I did know. Deep down I'd always known. Growing up in Havenwood, where being different meant whispers and sidelong glances, I'd buried that part of myself. The part that noticed girls the way I was supposed to notice boys. I'd buried it so deep I could pretend it didn't exist. Until now. Riley's jaw tightened, and for a moment I thought she'd push, demand more. But instead she turned to the shopkeeper. What about me? What am I hiding? The old woman gestured to the clock. Ask it yourself. Riley hesitated, then placed her hand on the clock. The air seemed to still, the glow intensifying. What am I hiding? She asked, her voice barely audible. The hand spun, landing on the same mirror symbol. The shopkeeper's smile was faint but knowing. You hide the same truth, Riley Parker. A heart that loves where it's not supposed to. Riley's hand fell, and she looked at me, her eyes wide with something like panic. For the first time I saw her not as my enemy, but as someone just as lost as I was. Someone who'd been fighting the same battle, hiding the same secret. We need to talk, she said, her voice firm despite the tremor in it. Not here. Somewhere else. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. We left the shop, the clock's glow fading behind us, but its weight followed. We ended up at the town's old diner. A 24-hour joint with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like regret. We sat across from each other, the silence heavy until Riley finally spoke. I've always known, she said, staring at her coffee mug, that I'm different. But I thought if I was perfect, cheerleader, prom queen, all of it, I could make it go away. I could be what everyone wanted. Her words hit me like a wave. I'd spent so long seeing her as untouchable. But here she was, raw and real, confessing something I'd never expected. I get it, I said, my voice hoarse. I've been hiding too. But why you? Why does it have to be you? She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Maybe because we're the only ones who can handle each other. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. There was something in her eyes, something that made me want to reach across the table, to bridge the gap we'd built over years of rivalry. But I didn't. Not yet. Let's figure this out, I said instead. The clock, the shop, all of it. There's got to be more to this. Riley nodded, her expression resolute. Deal. But no more running, Alex. We faced this together. As we left the diner, the night air cool against my skin, I felt something shift. The clock had opened a door, and whether I liked it or not, Riley and I were stepping through it together. The next day, Havenwood felt different, like the town itself was holding its breath. Riley and I agreed to meet at the library, a neutral ground where we could research the clock without the shopkeeper's cryptic stares. I arrived first, my sketchbook tucked under my arm, my fingers itching to draw the clock's strange symbols. I didn't know why, but sketching always helped me think, helped me untangle the knots in my head. Riley walked in, her usual confidence tempered by something quieter, more cautious. She wore a faded denim jacket, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, and for a moment I caught myself staring. Not out of anger, but something softer, something I wasn't ready to name. Find anything yet? She asked, sliding into the chair across from me. Her voice was casual, but her eyes searched mine, like she was looking for answers I didn't have. Not much, I admitted, flipping open my sketchbook. I'd drawn the clock from memory, its carved face, the heart symbol, the mirror. But I keep thinking about what the shopkeeper said. About fear. About hiding. Riley leaned forward, her elbows on the table. Yeah, well, she's not wrong. I've spent my whole life pretending to be someone I'm not. You know how it is here. One wrong move, and you're the town's gossip for a decade. I nodded, my chest tightening. Havenwood was small, its heart conservative. Being openly queer wasn't just brave, it was a risk. I'd seen how people whispered about Sarah, the barista who'd come out last year. Her life dissected over coffee counters and church pews. So why fight me all these years? I asked, my voice quieter than I meant. Why make me the enemy? Riley's gaze dropped to the table, her fingers tracing the edge of my sketchbook. Because you saw through me, she said. You always did. In debate, in art class, everywhere. You looked at me like you knew I was faking it. It scared the hell out of me. Her words landed heavy, stirring something in me I couldn't ignore. I didn't know, I said. I just thought you hated me. I didn't, she said quickly, her eyes meeting mine. I envied you. You were so unapologetic. You didn't care what anyone thought. I wanted to be that brave. I laughed a little bitter. Brave? I was terrified. Still am. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our confession settling between us. Then Riley reached for my sketchbook, her fingers brushing mine. What's this? She asked, pointing to the mirror symbol. I don't know, I said. But it feels important. Like it's trying to tell us something. We spent hours in the library, digging through old books on local history and folklore. Havenwood had its share of legends, haunted bridges, cursed forests, but nothing about a magical clock. Until Riley found a thin, leather-bound journal tucked behind a stack of encyclopedias. Its pages were yellowed, the ink faded, but one entry caught our eye. The Clock of Veritas, crafted in 1892, reveals the soul's truth. It binds those who touch it to their destined other, but only through trial will they see. Trial? I said, my stomach twisting. What does that mean? Riley's brow furrowed. Maybe it's not just about finding your soulmate. Maybe it's about earning it. Her words sent a chill through me. I didn't want to earn anything with Riley. I wanted to go back to hating her, to the safety of our old rivalry. But the clock had changed everything, and I couldn't unsee the way her eyes softened when she looked at me, or the way my heart raced when she did. Let's go back to the shop, she said, closing the journal. We need more answers. The antique shop was darker this time, the air thick with the scent of wax and old wood. The shopkeeper was waiting, as if she'd known we'd return. You've seen the truth, she said, her eyes flicking between us. Now you must face the trial. What trial? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. She gestured to the clock, its glow brighter now, almost urgent. The clock binds you, but it also tests you. To accept your bond, you must confront what keeps you apart. Your fear, your pride, your past. Riley's jaw tightened. And if we don't? The shopkeeper's smile was thin. Then the clock will fade, and so will your chance at truth. I wanted to laugh, to call it a scam again, but the clock's hum was louder now, vibrating in my bones. Riley stepped closer to it, her hand hovering. What do we do? She asked, not to the shopkeeper but to me. I don't know, I said, my voice shaking. But I'm not walking away. Not yet. She nodded, and for the first time I saw something like trust in her eyes. Together then, she said. We touched the clock at the same time, our fingers brushing against each other's. The jolt was stronger this time, the room spinning, the air shimmering like heat waves. When the world steadied, we weren't in the shop anymore. We were standing in a forest, the trees ancient and gnarled, the air heavy with mist. The clock stood before us, its glow cutting through the fog. Where are we? Riley whispered, her voice tight. I shook my head, my heart pounding. I think this is the trial. The forest was silent, but it felt alive, watching us. A path stretched ahead, winding into the mist, and the clock's hand began to spin again, pointing toward it. Whatever was waiting, we'd face it together. And that scared me more than anything. The forest was unnaturally still, the kind of quiet that made your skin prickle. Riley and I stood side by side, the clock's golden glow casting long shadows across the mossy ground. Its hand pointed down the path, where the mist swirled like a living thing, beckoning us forward. This is insane, I muttered, my breath visible in the chilly air. We were just in the shop. How are we here? Riley's eyes scanned the trees, her posture tense. I don't know, but I'm not loving it. You think this is the trial the old lady mentioned? Has to be. I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The clock brought us here. It wants us to do something. She glanced at me, her expression a mix of skepticism and determination. Then let's do it. I'm not standing around waiting for answers. We started down the path, our footsteps muffled by the damp earth. The mist thickened, curling around us like fingers, and the clock's glow faded behind us. I kept stealing glances at Riley, her jaw set, her eyes sharp. She was still the girl I'd spent years resenting, but now I saw the cracks in her armor, the way her hands clenched, the way she stayed close like she trusted me to have her back. The path led to a clearing where a stone altar stood, weathered and covered in vines. At its center was a smaller version of the clock, its face identical to the one in the shop. The hand was still, pointing to a carved inscription. Face your past or lose your future. Great, Riley said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. More riddles. But as she spoke, the air shimmered and images began to form in the mist, memories vivid and sharp, like we were stepping into them. The first was from 8th grade, the day Riley humiliated me in debate club. I saw myself, gangly and nervous, fumbling my argument as she tore it apart, her smile cold and triumphant. But now I saw something else, her hands shaking under the table, her eyes darting to me with something like guilt. Why did you do it? I asked, my voice cutting through the vision. Why go so hard? The memory Riley faded, and the real Riley turned to me, her face pale. I was scared, she said. You were so real. I had to be better, or I'd fall apart. Before I could respond, another memory flickered into view. High school, the art room, my sanctuary. I was painting, tears streaking my face after my dad left town for good. Riley walked in, saw me and paused. I'd always thought she left to mock me later, but now I saw her linger, her hand reaching out before she pulled back and slipped away. You didn't say anything, I said, my throat tight. Why? I didn't know how, she admitted, her voice soft. I wanted to, but I was a coward. The memories kept coming, each one peeling back layers of our rivalry. Every fight, every jab was rooted in fear of being seen, of being vulnerable. The clock was forcing us to relive it all, to confront the walls we'd built. The final memory was recent. The night of the scholarship competition. We'd both submitted paintings and Riley won. I'd hated her for it, but now I saw her alone in her car afterward, her hands gripping the wheel, her face crumpling as she whispered, I'm sorry, Alex. You didn't even want it, I said, realization dawning. The scholarship. You didn't care about it. She shook her head. I wanted to prove I could win. Not against you, against myself. The mist cleared, leaving us at the altar again. The clock's hand spun, then stopped on a new symbol, a key. A voice, soft but commanding, echoed from nowhere. Unlock your truth or remain bound by lies. Riley's eyes met mine, and for the first time I didn't see my enemy. I saw someone who'd been fighting the same battles I had, hiding the same truths. What's your truth, Alex? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I swallowed, my heart hammering. I'm gay, I said, the words heavy but freeing. I've known for years, but I buried it. I was scared of what it meant, of what people would say. She nodded, her eyes glistening. Me too. I've known since I was 16. But I thought if I was perfect I could outrun it. The air around us warmed, the mist thinning. The clock glowed brighter, its hand steady on the key. I reached for it, my fingers brushing the cold metal, and felt a rush of clarity. We don't have to hide anymore, I said. Not from each other. Riley's hand found mine, her touch tentative but warm. Then let's do this. Whatever this trial is, we face it together. The clock hummed, and the ground beneath us shifted. The altar sank, revealing a stone staircase descending into darkness. Riley's grip tightened and I squeezed back. Whatever was down there, we'd face it. Not as enemies, but as something new, something undefined but real. As we took the first step, I felt the weight of years of anger lift, replaced by something fragile but growing. The clock had shown us our truth, but the trial wasn't over. And neither was our story. The staircase spiraled down into darkness, the air growing colder with each step. Riley's hand stayed in mine, her grip a quiet anchor in the unknown. The clock's glow followed us, a faint golden light that clung to the stone walls, illuminating carvings of hearts and mirrors, keys and clocks, each one pulsing like a heartbeat. "Where are we going?" Riley whispered, her voice echoing softly. "No idea," I said, my breath catching as the stairs leveled out into a vast chamber. At its center stood another clock, larger than the one in the shop, its face carved with constellations that shimmered like stars. The hand was still, pointing to a blank space on the wall. "This place feels alive," Riley said, her eyes scanning the chamber. She was right. The air hummed not with sound but with a presence, like the clock was watching us, waiting. A voice echoed, the same one from the clearing. "To claim your bond, face your fear." The wall the clock pointed to shimmered, then dissolved, revealing a doorway. Beyond it was a void, black and endless, pulling at me like a tide. Riley's grip tightened. "You scared?" she asked, her voice teasing but soft. "Terrified," I admitted. "You?" She nodded, her lips twitching into a small smile. "Good. Means we're doing this right." We stepped through the doorway and the world shifted again. We were back in Havenwood, but not the Havenwood we knew. The town square was empty, the shops boarded up, the air heavy with silence. It was like a memory of the future, a warning of what could be. "What is this place?" I asked, my voice trembling. Riley's brow furrowed. "It's us," she said. "What happens if we keep hiding?" The clock appeared again, its hand spinning, then stopping on a new symbol, a broken chain. The voice returned. "Break the chain of fear, or be bound by it forever." Figures emerged from the shadows, versions of ourselves, older, worn. The other Alex stood alone, her paintbrush idle, her eyes dull with regret. The other Riley was surrounded by people, smiling her perfect smile, but her hands were clenched, her face a mask. They were us, but broken, trapped by the lies we'd told ourselves. "I don't want this," I said, my voice cracking. "I don't want to end up like that." "Neither do I," Riley said, her voice fierce. She turned to me, her eyes blazing. "So let's break the chain. Let's be honest for once." I nodded, my heart pounding. "I'm done hiding," I said. "I want to be me. The real me." Riley's smile was small but real. "Me too. And maybe that means being us." The words hung between us, heavy with possibility. The clock's hand spun again, and the chamber reappeared, the void gone. The clock's face now showed a new symbol, a heart, whole and unbroken. The voice spoke one last time. "You have faced your fear. Now choose your path." The chamber brightened and two paths appeared, each leading to a glowing door. One was warm, golden, filled with the promise of connection. The other was cold, gray, leading back to the safety of solitude. Riley looked at me, her hand still in mine. "What do you choose, Alex?" I swallowed, my throat tight. "I choose you," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Not because of the clock, but because I want to know what this is. What we could be. Her eyes softened and she squeezed my hand. "I choose you too." We stepped toward the golden door, the clock's hum fading as warmth enveloped us. When we emerged, we were back in the antique shop, the real one, the clock silent on its shelf. The shopkeeper was gone, but a note lay on the counter. "The clock has done its work. The rest is yours." Riley picked up the note, her fingers brushing mine. "So," she said, her voice light but trembling. "What now?" I smiled, my heart lighter than it had been in years. "Now we figure it out. Together." We left the shop, the night air cool and sharp. Havenwood stretched before us, familiar but new, like a canvas waiting for paint. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what it might hold, or of the girl walking beside me. The days after the trial felt like waking from a dream, but the weight of it lingered. Riley and I were different now. Not enemies, not quite friends, but something undefined, teetering on the edge of more. Havenwood hadn't changed. Same quiet streets, same gossiping neighbors, but we had, and that made everything feel new. We met at the diner again, the same cracked booth, the same bitter coffee. Riley slid in across from me, her denim jacket slung over her shoulder, her hair loose and catching the morning light. So, she said, her voice teasing, still think the clock's a scam? I laughed, stirring my coffee. Maybe. But it got us here, didn't it? Her smile was small, almost shy. Yeah, it did. We talked for hours, not about the clock or the trial, but about everything else. Our fears, our dreams, the parts of ourselves we'd hidden for so long. I told her about my dad, how his leaving had left a hole I'd filled with anger and pain. She told me about her mom, the pressure to be perfect, the fear of disappointing a town that saw her as its golden girl. It was strange hearing her vulnerabilities, seeing the girl behind the mask. Stranger still was how much I wanted to keep listening. Let's do something, she said suddenly, her eyes bright. Something real. No clocks, no trials. Just us. Like what? I asked, my heart skipping. She grinned, a spark of her old mischief returning. Come with me. She drove us to the edge of town, to a field where wildflowers bloomed in messy, beautiful patches. It was a place I'd never been, a place that felt like it belonged to her. We sat in the grass, the sun warm on our faces, and she pulled a sketchbook from her bag. Not mine, but hers. You draw? I asked, surprised. Sometimes, she said, flipping it open. The pages were filled with sketches, landscapes, faces, moments caught in pencil and charcoal. They were good, better than I'd expected, and they showed a side of her I'd never seen. I started in high school. It was my way of escaping. I traced a sketch of the town square, her lines bold but soft. Why didn't you ever show anyone? She shrugged, her shoulder brushing mine. Same reason you don't show everyone your paintings. It's personal. We sat there sharing our art, our stories, our truths. For the first time I didn't feel like I had to hide. With Riley I could be Alex, not the scrappy outsider, not the angry rival, just me. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in pinks and golds, Riley turned to me, her expression serious. I don't know what this is, she said, gesturing between us. But I want to find out. Do you? My heart pounded, but I didn't look away. Yeah, I said. Ido. She smiled, and it was like the world tilted brighter, warmer. We didn't kiss, didn't cross that line, but her hand found mine, and that was enough for now. The clock had brought us here, but this moment was ours. Back in town, reality crept in. Havenwood wasn't ready for us, not yet. We saw it in the raised eyebrows at the diner, the whispers at the gas station. But we didn't care, not as much as we thought we would. We had each other, and that was a start. The next day we went back to the antique shop, needing to know more about the clock. But the shop was empty, the shelves bare, the clock gone. A for sale sign hung in the window, and the town gossiped about the shopkeeper vanishing overnight. It was like the clock had never existed, like it had come and gone to serve its purpose. Do you think it was real? I asked Riley as we stood outside the empty shop. She shrugged, her hand brushing mine. Does it matter? It got us to stop lying to ourselves. She was right. The clock had been a catalyst, but what happened next was up to us. And for the first time I was ready to face it, not as enemies but as partners in whatever came next. Weeks passed and Riley and I fell into a rhythm, tentative, exhilarating, terrifying. We met in secret places. The field, the library, the old pier by the lake. Each moment chipped away at the walls we'd built, revealing a connection neither of us had expected. But Havenwood's eyes were sharp, and we knew we couldn't hide forever. One night we sat on the pier, the lake reflecting a sky full of stars. Riley's shoulder pressed against mine, her warmth grounding me. What happens when people find out? She asked, her voice quiet but steady. I stared at the water, my stomach twisting. They'll talk. They always do. But I'm done caring what they think. She turned to me, her eyes searching. Are you? Because I'm not sure I am. Her honesty stung, but it was real and I respected that. Then we'll figure it out together, I said. No rus. Just us. She smiled, and this time she leaned in, her lips brushing mine. It was soft, hesitant, but it set my heart on fire. When we pulled back, her eyes were bright, her cheeks flushed. Okay, she said. Together. But the world wasn't as kind as that moment. The next day, Mia caught us holding hands behind the library. She didn't judge, but her eyes widened and I knew the news would spread. By evening the whispers had started. At the diner, old Mrs. Thompson stared as we walked in, her lips pursed. At the gas station a group of guys from high school smirked, their voices low but cutting. Riley's confidence wavered, but she didn't pull away. "Let them talk," she said, her voice fierce. "They don't get to define us." I wanted to believe her, but fear crept in. Havenwood wasn't just a town, it was a pressure cooker, and we were testing its limits. Still, we kept going, stealing moments where we could. We painted together in my tiny apartment, her sketches blending with my colors, creating something new. We laughed, we argued, we grew closer, and every touch felt like a defiance of the world outside. Then came the town fair, Havenwood's big event. We went together, not hiding but not flaunting either. The air was thick with the smell of cotton candy and fried dough, the lights bright against the night. We wandered the stalls, sharing a caramel apple, our fingers brushing. For a moment it felt like we could be us unapologetically. But then I saw her mom. Mrs. Parker stood by the Ferris wheel, her face like stone as she watched us. Riley froze, her hand tightening in mine. "She knows," she whispered. Before I could respond, Mrs. Parker marched over, her voice low but sharp. "Riley, we need to talk. Now." Riley's jaw clenched, but she didn't let go of my hand. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it here." Her mom's eyes flicked to me, cold and appraising. "This isn't you, Riley. You're better than this." I felt Riley tremble, but her voice was steady. "No, Mom. This is me. And I'm done pretending it's not." Mrs. Parker's face tightened, and she walked away, leaving a silence heavier than words. Riley's hand shook in mine, but she didn't cry. "I'm okay," she said, more to herself than to me. "I have to be." I pulled her close, not caring who saw. "You are," I said. "And I'm here." That night, we sat in the field again, the stars above us brighter than ever. Riley leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," she admitted. "But I want to be." "Then we'll get there," I said. "One step at a time." The clock had started this, but it was up to us to finish it. And for the first time I believed we could. Months later, Havenwood was still Havenwood. Small, stubborn, slow to change. But Riley and I had changed, and that was enough. We were out now, not shouting it from the rooftops but living it quietly, honestly. The whispers hadn't stopped, but they'd softened, and some people, like Mia and a few others, stood by us, their support a quiet strength. We kept painting, our art a shared language. My apartment was a mess of canvases and sketches, Riley's bold lines mixing with my vibrant colors. One night we finished a piece together. A swirling abstract of hearts and keys, mirrors and clocks. It felt like us, messy and beautiful, a testament to everything we'd faced. "We should show this," Riley said, her eyes bright. "At the gallery downtown. They're doing an open call." I hesitated, fear creeping in. "You sure? People will know it's us." She grinned, that old spark back. "Let them. I'm done hiding." So we submitted it, and when the gallery accepted it, we stood together at the opening, our hands entwined. The crowd was small, but their eyes lingered on our painting, on us. Some whispered, some smiled, and for the first time I didn't care. This was our truth, and it was enough. Mrs. Parker came around slowly. She didn't approve, not fully, but she started inviting me to Sunday dinners, her questions cautious but kind. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Havenwood was learning too, one person at a time. The clock never reappeared, and the antique shop stayed empty. Sometimes I wondered if it had been real, if it had chosen us for a reason. But then I'd look at Riley, her laugh, her courage, the way she made me feel seen, and I knew it didn't matter. The clock had been a spark, but we were the fire. One evening we sat on the pier again, the lake calm, the stars bright. Riley turned to me, her eyes soft but fierce. "I love you, Alex," she said, the words simple but heavy. "Not because of some clock, but because of you." My heart swelled and I leaned in, kissing her under the starlight. "I love you too," I said. "And I'm not afraid anymore." We'd faced our fears, our past, our town. The clock had pointed to my enemy, but it had led me to my soulmate. And in that moment, with Riley's hand in mine, I knew we'd write our own story, one of love, courage, and truth.